What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I asked you guys on my Instagram story to ask me some questions that you guys want to know, and so many of you were asking me questions about bulking. So I then asked you guys to make a whole entire Q&A revolving around bulking for me today. So that is what I'm going to answer really quickly in case you don't know what bulking is. Bulking is just a period of time, typically in the winter, when people decide to eat a little bit more, eat in a caloric surplus in order to try to gain some lean muscle mass. Now the thing with bulking is it's not necessarily imperative. It's not the only way you can build muscle mass. Some people can go through something called recomping, where they're eating around the same amount that they typically would to lose some fat and gain some muscle. But some people will go through stages called bulking periods, caloric surpluses, etc. And that is what I'm going to be talking about today. The reason it's mostly in the winter months is just because you will be adding on additional body fat with a bulk. Not a lot, but you will be having some additional fluff on your body. And that's just kind of a better period of time to have that on your body rather than when you're, out on the beach, whatever, you might not feel as comfortable in your skin that way. So let's get started with your questions. There were a lot of questions, so we'll see how many we can get through. I'm just gonna try to answer the ones that are the most relative to everyone else, and we'll see how many we can get through. How long should I bulk for to see results? So the thing with a bulk or a caloric surplus period is that it can be a really long time. There are people that can bulk for years and years and years before they ever feel the need to cut down. That's because somebody might have, a lot harder time to build muscle or a lot harder time to gain weight than somebody else. Somebody might, gain weight super fast, super easily, gain muscle super easily, so they only need like 3 to 4 months on a bulk. Somebody might literally take years to bulk. So it really depends on you. For me, it was about 3 to 4 months last year. This year, it'll probably be around the same amount of time. Really just until you're comfortable. I mean, once you get to a point where you're like, I don't feel comfortable in my skin right now, then you might want to start cutting down just so you don't prolong the fat gain period. What do you usually eat when bulking? So with bulking, what is going to happen is you're going to be having a lot more carbs than usual. So last winter when I was bulking, I was eating around 345 grams of carbs, which is a lot of carbs. And something that you have to keep in mind is even though you have that many grams of carbs, typically you will not have extra fiber along with that. So fiber, it helps push things through your stomach, but it doesn't matter how many calories you're supposed to be eating. It doesn't change how much fiber you need to help your stomach digest. So it sticks around 25 to 30 grams of fiber for women. So that gets a little complicated when you're eating 345 grams of carbs, because if you're eating a lot of whole grains, a lot of whole grain breads, whole wheat breads, whatever, there's going to be a lot of fiber in those things, as well as your vegetables and different things like that. So you want to stick to breads and rices and pastas sometimes that don't have any fiber, that maybe not necessarily aren't the healthiest choice for you. So white rice, for example, get in some carbs that aren't going to have the fiber along with it. Jasmine rice is a huge one that I usually eat a lot. Basmati rice. I eat a lot of pasta because for me, rice, I feel like it's super high volume for the amount of carbs that you get. But for something like pasta, you can have half a cup of dry pasta and there could be like 50 grams of carbs in that. So I like to shoot for pasta sometimes just because it's easier to eat. It's lower volume. My stomach can digest it quicker and it has a lot of carbs in it. Bagels, I eat a lot of bagels. I'm trying to remember what I eat all the time. I mean, I would literally just like wake up, I'd have oatmeal, I'd have a snack in between, I would have lunch, I'd have another snack. I mean, I would just snack a lot, I'd have dinner, I'd have a dessert, like just eating a lot and frequently to get all the food in. There's really no like main food that you have to eat or anything like that, or that is better for bulking. The only reason it would be quote unquote better is because it would be lower volume for higher amount of carbs. So again, that pasta that I was talking about. Okay, next question. How do you deal with belly fat gain in a bulk? So personally, I mean, I gain fat. Everyone does gain fat all over, okay? So it's not just your stomach fat that you're gonna gain. Will you gain a little bit? Yeah, but if you are gaining a lot really fast, one thing it could be is water retention. So when you're increasing calories, you're just probably gonna have a little bit more sodium in your diet. Body has to sort of also adapt to this new increase in intake. So you might be retaining some water from the increased calories. That's one thing. Increased water retention in your body is gonna look like and feel like fat gain, but it's not fat gain. So that's something to keep in mind. Second thing, make sure your sodium is already in check. So maybe you didn't recently increase your calories, but maybe you are eating, 2,500 calories and every day you're going to 3,500 milligrams of sodium, not really drinking much water, you're going to be retaining a lot of water. So making sure your sodium's in check, making sure your water is in check. Those two things. And then on the overall, you don't want to increase calories by an extreme amount way too fast, because then you will gain fat more so than you're going to gain muscle. If all those check out, then maybe lower your calories a little bit, but at the same time, you're going to gain some fat. You just have to kind of deal with that. Okay, someone asked how to know if it's the right time to bulk. So there's a couple questions you should probably ask yourself before you get too crazy and go right into a bulk because you just want to gain muscle. First thing is, what is your relationship like with food? So do you view food as evil? Do you view food as something that will cause you to gain weight? Do you view food as a coping mechanism, etc., etc.? All these questions are super important because what's going to happen when you get into a bulk and, you know, maybe it is a coping mechanism and you already know subconsciously that you have to be eating a lot of food to gain muscle. What if something happens, like you break up with your boyfriend? Maybe previously you wouldn't have gone through a binging, you know, session or something because you still wanted to, you know, kind of stay lean, etc. But now that you're on this sort of bulking time of your life, maybe you just start eating a ton of food, etc. So that's one thing that, you know, maybe it's not the right time for you if you don't have the best relationship with food. You should view food as fuel, as something that's going to help your muscles grow and help your muscles do what you want them to do, meaning lifting those heavy weight. That's one thing. Second thing is, if you think that a bulk is, you know, you can eat whatever you want, don't bulk right now. You should have a full understanding that bulking does not mean you're going to McDonald's 3 times a day. Bulking does not mean that you're having 5 cookies for dinner and 5 cookies for breakfast. That is not bulking. Bulking should be done in as healthy a manner as possible, meaning you should be eating in a surplus, but making sure that surplus is 80% healthy food, meaning you're having the brown rice, you're having eggs, you're having vegetables, you're having potatoes, all those different types of things, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're eating, you know, McDonald's every day and now you gained way too much fat on your bulk and you say, oh, bulks don't work. They do work. They work really, really well, and you can gain a lot of muscle mass when you go through a bulk, but you have to do it properly. Otherwise, you're just gonna regret it. My first year did not do it properly. I mean, I didn't count macros is what I mean, but I did not, you know, I was just kind of eating whatever. I'd be like, oh, I'm on a bulk, you know, it's whatever. Yes, there are going to be times when you can do that. You know, Christmas is right smack in the middle usually of people's bulks. Have those Christmas cookies, have fun with friends, etc. But at the same time, make sure that 80% of the time you're eating healthy food, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're now eating way too much food, way too much sodium, feeling uncomfortable. It's not fun. So understanding, you know, if you feel like you understand a bulk and how to do it properly, then it's a good time for you. Also, if you are somebody who has been lacking energy in the gym, has been lacking the pumps, has been lacking progress with muscle growth, anything like that, it's definitely a good time for you to bulk. I'm telling you. I just wish like everyone would do it and just drop their fears of it, because oh my gosh, it is amazing and it is so worth it. How do I know if I need to bulk or cut first when I'm trying to tone up? It really depends on what situation you're in. So this happens to a lot of the women I coach. Look, my clients will come to me, they'll say, you know, I want to have really toned arms and nice legs and glutes, and I also want to lose body fat. So a lot of these women will also tell me, I barely eat right now. You know, I eat something like 1,200, 1,300 calories. So what we do in a situation like that is slowly work their calories up so we can get their metabolism up and running. They lose some of that fat and start having extra calories to put towards muscle growth. So that is what I would do, is probably more of a reverse diet than a cut or a bulk. If you are somebody who, you know, maybe you're eating at maintenance and, you know, you're eating the 1,800 and you just have this extra body fat, but you've also been lifting for a year or two, then maybe you can go into a cut. But do not go into a cut if you have not already been lifting for a decent amount of time, because there's not going to be muscle under there for you to see the tone that you want to see. Toned bodies is just somebody who has muscle mass and they've leaned down so you can see it. If you don't have muscle mass underneath, when you just lose that body fat, it's just going to keep looking like that skinny fat that everyone always talks about. I had that for so long. I kept, you know, I couldn't lose enough weight, and that kind of leads to some sort of, you know, disordered eating, disordered whatever, which happened to me. So did that make any sense? I hope that made sense. How do you know if the bulk is successful during the process yourself? So one thing you should be feeling at least is increase in strength. So if you are not feeling like you're increasing your strength, then maybe you need to work on your program a little bit, try to fix it up. Maybe you're not even trying to do more weight. Definitely try to do more weight. You know, eating the food isn't going to do it all for you. You can't just eat the food and expect the muscle to grow. You have to also push your body to the points where it'll be able to grow. So doing things like progressive overloading, making sure your muscles are having an extra load to build that muscle. So, you know, maybe you're doing 135 squats for about 10 reps right now and you just started bulking. If you just keep doing 135 for 10 reps for the entirety of your bulk, you probably will not gain muscle. You won't. So you want to make sure you're progressive overloading, making sure you're getting stronger, lifting heavier weights, weights to see that muscle growth. You should know that it's working as you're going through the bulk. If you feel like it's not, then it's probably not. You will feel bigger muscles, you will feel more strength, you will feel, you know, just the ability to do more in the gym. If you're not feeling these things, then you definitely want to try to push yourself a little bit harder next time you're at the gym. Effort is king. That, and also making sure your volume is not too much. You know, a lot of people, they go into the gym on leg days, they're doing 10 different exercises. You don't have to do that. 5 to 6, you're golden. What are some of your tips that help remind you of trusting the process? So, you know, a lot of people, their fear of bulking is because of the fat gain that would come along with it. So that kind of holds them back a ton all the time. And I'm like, first of all, the fat gain is not that much. I think when people hear you're gonna gain fat, they're assuming that they're going to blow up like a mother freaking balloon and look like they gained 100 pounds. That is not what happens at a bulk, okay? You will feel a little bit extra layer of fat. That doesn't mean that you're gonna, you know, suddenly have like rolls hanging over every which side. No, that's not what it means. Second thing, the fat gain is slow. So it'll be a slow fat gain process. Third thing, with trusting the process, you know, there aren't really tips to trusting the process besides just like letting go of your goddamn expectations and your goddamn thoughts. Like, that is the only thing that holds people back when they're not trusting the process, is they have this projection, this fear. So they're projecting into the future this fear that they're going to gain all this fat. They're thinking about it so much, thinking about it, that they cause themselves not to even try. What about instead you project this vision of what you're going to look like at the, you know, start of summer, when you grew all this muscle over winter, you went through a cut, and now you're looking at banging, lean, toned, all that stuff you want to see. That is the problem with why people can't trust the process, is they don't see that long-term vision. You have to see that. You have to go through this shit, to go through the uncomfortableness, you have to see the long-term vision. You have to see what it looks like for you in the end when you get to where you want to be. If you're too focused on what the next day is going to look like, how am I going to feel tomorrow, that's not going to help you, okay? You're going to feel uncomfortable. Deal with it. Go through this shit. It's the reason why there are so many people that aren't comfortable in their body right now, is because nobody's willing to go through the uncomfortable parts to get the body that they want. That's why so few people have the body they want. It's because they're not willing to go through the uncomfortable parts. You have to be willing to go through the uncomfortable parts to get to where you want to be, and you have to keep that vision of where you want to be in the back of your mind every single day. There's another one, how to keep a flat stomach while bulking. I feel like everything goes to my belly and not my butt. Again, that is going to go back to how are your workouts. I mean, if you can't expect the food to do everything. The food will not do everything for you. The food will be there to fix up, repair, rebuild your muscle mass and build it bigger than before, but it can only do that if the workouts that you're doing are setting it up for that. So if the workouts you're doing, you're not putting enough effort, you're not, you know, breaking up that muscle mass, you're not pushing your body into a zone where it will be able to grow, then you are not going to see the muscle growth. Then instead, those extra calories, the surplus calories, might turn to fat instead of going to your muscles. So making sure you're putting in that effort every time you're in the gym, lifting heavily, also giving your body time to rest. Okay, and then the last question people ask me is how much to increase your calories. So the general rule of thumb is to go about 5 to 10% above your maintenance calories. Now the thing with this is, let's say your maintenance right now is something like 2,200, like myself. So going about 10% above your maintenance would be about 220 calories more if you were in my situation. So that would be around 2,420 calories. Now, this would be useful only until you have plateaued, which is when your maintenance will change. Your body adapts to what you give it. So although my maintenance right now might be something like 2,200, as I gain more weight, as I gain more strength, as I'm going more into my bulk, my body will adapt to the intake it has and to the increased strength and increased weight, etc. And I will have a new maintenance. So right now it could be 2,200, but you know, maybe after I increase it to 2,400, my maintenance goes up to 2,300, etc. So different things like that you just want to keep an eye out for. Those are the answers to all your questions. There were other questions and I'm sorry I didn't get to them, but they were a little bit more specific to the person asking them, and I want to make this as general as possible. If you have any questions or you're about to go through a bulk and you want a coach to bring you along through, reach out to me down below in the link in the description for my coaching application. If you are interested in working with me one-on-one, I do have spots open frequently, so feel free to sign up, see if you're a good fit, and we'll get that ball rolling. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.